1 3/4. It's just started raining here.
Don't know what to do with my hands.
You don't know you can just leave your hands. You don't really need them. I think we're actually live now. That's fun, isn't it? We should probably start having a conversation. Hang on one moment. We are. Yeah, we are. Hey, good morning, AJ Reid and Will Reid from Anarchy Racing.
Good morning, Sue Ellen.
Good morning.
How's things out there in lockdown land? All good?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking out to some lonely boats out in the Panmure Estuary and looking at the nice rain that's coming through. Auckland needs rain, so we're not going to complain about that, are we?
We'll take it.
We'll definitely take it. How's lockdown in your bubble?
We're a bubble of 5, so I'm the 5th wheel, which is just great. Yep. Nah, it's a cool little vibe we've got here, and just trying to keep sane and come up with different topics for dinner every night at the moment. Artka's decided tonight we're going to somehow learn about quantum physics or something. So
you're going to learn about quantum physics while
well,
making
no,
dinner?
The whole family has to learn something and then bring it to the table. So yeah.
So Artka's doing quantum physics?
No, we all have to learn it. She picked the topic. So actually, no, Iggy did. So yes.
Gee, for crying out loud. I think I'll just stick to my listening to music while making dinner.
Yeah.
So here you go. We are definitely live now on Live Sail Die, on Anarchy Racing, and on DOYLE Sales. So guys, thank you so much for taking time this morning out of your very, very busy lives during lockdown.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, that's a pretty cool picture you've got in the background there.
Yeah, that's taken a nice aerial from Bay Week, and that quite nicely shows at least the back end mods on the boat. And looking at the crew positioning, I'll just hop out of the way so you can see. Hang on. I'm pretty sure we're obviously either about to enter a jibe or we've just done one, because no one's on the rail giving it everything, or maybe it's just really light. But it's a great picture. Nice work.
Yeah, so that one was taken by Georgia Schofield from Live Sail Die during Bay Week. We absolutely love Bay Week. We get to head up there every year, thanks to our friends at DOYLE Sales. So hey guys, look, I mean, you guys have got quite a following on Anarchy. Over 2,000 odd people follow your Facebook page. So, I mean, per capita in New Zealand and those that sail, that's quite a decent amount of fans that you have. But you've also got a lot of fans around the world as well who tune in and, like to see what you're up to. Let's go back, because not a lot of people know about how Anarchy kind of came to be. So AJ, let us know how this boat actually ended up on the racecourse in Auckland and beyond.
Well, Anarchy only exists because of a major disastrous mishap with the previous boat. We had a epic Fiji race in 2014 on a J111 we had called Django. Super tight-knit crew, really great times, awesome race. We raced our buddies on squealer, match raced all the way. It was a 9-second differential, I think, at the finish after 1,200 miles. It was crazy stuff. And Bex and Benno's and Cookie, who were the 3 delivery crew on the way back, they had a major rudder stop failure on the boat, and it meant that the rudder was free to move around with still attached to the boat, but with basically tearing the hull to bits. So they were going to sink, and they were in a bit of a storm. Things were looking really ugly. I think they were a couple of hundred miles north of North Cape, and in pretty dire straits. Cookie, the 3 of them jumped in the life raft to be rescued by the New Zealand Navy,
the HMS Otago.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. They were heroes.
Yeah.
And Cookie did say to Benno's and Bex, who were a couple, do you think this is a good time for a threesome? So they kept their sense of humour.
But anyone who knows Cookie, I mean, he'll take that at any day of the week.
So again, a big shout out to those guys. It was a pretty epic experience for them, and quite life-changing, actually. So we ended up in a situation of being boatless and wondering what to do next. So I'd always admired...
The friends were all good, so that's
everyone was good, and they're all still good, so that's great.
I mean, Bex and Benno are now married with 2 kids, so...
they went really hard, 2 kids, a boat, a house, full noise, everything. So
Bex is out there at the moment saving New Zealand.
She is, frontline nurse, so great stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we're sort of looking around and thinking, well, what do we replace this with? And we wanted to go fast, because going fast downwind is still the coolest thing in sailing, I think. And so I knew about the General Lee in Perth, which was at that stage sort of for sale. Spoke to the guys, it kind of didn't really go anywhere. They had I think probably it was just a question of the price was pretty high for what the boat was and everything else. So anyway, we kind of cast around and went, well, hang on, why don't we, see what happens with an evolution of that boat? So I went to Brett Bakewell White, who was a designer, and said to Brett, hey, look, if you were going to do the General Lee now, what would it look like? So he produced a couple of drawings. We thought that was pretty cool. Got in touch with Ian Cookie out at Yachting Developments, and he was super keen to build the boat pronto. And so our desire was very much to make it a full Kiwi project, designed in New Zealand, built in New Zealand, crewed by New Zealanders, rigged by Kiwis, sails in New Zealand, the whole shebang. And so it happened. And we launched the boat in, I think, March of 2015, hit the ground running. We were just in time for the first Auckland regatta. I think it was the Jack Tar in those days. Totally cocked that up because we were at Reid. And then the rest is kind of history. We've had close to, the boat's 5 years old now, but we had 4 years of amazing racing. We did a Fiji race, heaps of races around New Zealand, lots of regattas, heaps of two-handed stuff. The boat's done something like 15,000 miles in that time. So it's, it gets used a lot.
Yeah, and mostly coastal racing or just round the can stuff. It does everything. So yeah.
And then so great Kiwi story, really.
The boat's always had like a pretty cool following since right from the start, because all of a sudden there's like bang on the Auckland scene, there was this brand new boat, with a pretty outrageous name, and owned and skippered by a very enthusiastic Auckland yachty, being yourself, AJ.
Yeah, I'm
You're an enthusiast.
You've got to be obsessed by something, don't you?
Absolutely. So now, out of all of those, 15,000 odd miles you've done, I know that there was a recent race that you did called White Island, around White Island, which is the volcano here in New Zealand. And you kind of like almost set like a PB for that one, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the best. What was it? 10 hours, roughly, down to the island.
Yeah, first 170 miles in 10 hours.
Yeah, first 170 in 10 hours, which is pretty quick. I think the last 80 of that or something like that happened in 4 or 5. It was, fun fact: if you are driving or just around and you start singing Pirates of the Caribbean theme song, the boat will go faster.
It will, especially if you're singing it because people will want to sail faster to get off the boat.
Well, no, it's actually Mr. Andrew Clark there who brought the inspiration. Yeah. So
we've got the crew's great. We've got a really, really tight knit bunch of great, good friends and young, enthusiastic, really talented, a whole bunch of great sailors who all share the desire to send it, and send it we did. So I think of all of the racing we've done, I think White Island was one of the most special because of the big send down. It's a great race anyway because a mark of the course is an active volcano, and although that turned out to be a tragic location for a whole lot of people, that was actually, I think our race was a couple of weeks before that disaster occurred. Yeah. So the place was percolating at the time. We got sulfur smells and ash on the deck and all that sort of stuff going past. But great race, and all the crew are still pretty fizzed about it, really.
Yeah, and that's the thing about sailing is you don't actually really remember all those it's the scenes and those experiences you remember, in this little cult that we are part of, as opposed to some presentation or whatever. It's the people and those experiences.
But you sail with a relatively young crew on Anarchy as well.
At 26, I'm one of the older ones on the boat. I think when we did Newport, the average age on the boat was 24 or 3 or something like that, and that was including AJ. So
no, I'm not so sure about that. I think I skew it really badly.
Yeah. No, that was without AJ, and then with AJ, the average age went up to about 28. Yeah, but no one, it was actually 28. So yeah.
So AJ, why did you decide to opt for a crew of young, up and coming sailors as opposed to a stacked crew of older sailors?
Well, Will, when we came to Auckland, did the squatty program, which was a really awesome thing.
So for anyone who doesn't know, that's the RNZYS youth training program. So that's a year of sailing on Elliott Sevens and a crew of 4, and actually pretty much met all my really good mates up here through that gig, which it's pretty fun. Like if you're interested in sailing at all and you're a young kid around the place, then get into it because it's a good program, good people.
Yeah, well, so that's sort of how the crewing thing started, and also Atka, my wife, Will's mum, she in the Django days said, look, I love this yacht racing business, but I don't want to go sailing with just a whole lot of blokes. It'll be tedious. The conversation will be just stupid banter, and I want something a bit more intelligent and cultured. So can we have a lot of women on board? And so
and then the banter got even worse.
Yeah, actually the banter got worse,
yeah.
But so that's what ended up happening. So not only do we have probably the youngest crew on average around the place, it's probably the most skewed toward women, which really makes the boat, I think, fully turbocharged. We've got a massive amount of enthusiasm and drive on the boat, and I think that's really our secret weapon. I remember. I think it was a prize giving at the Squatty a while ago, and someone came up to me and said, how come you guys are going, what's happening? The boat's going really well. And I said, well, I think it's the mix on the boat, it's the level of enthusiasm, the talent, the drive, and the fact that it's a reflection of society at large, which is half and half males and men and women. And kind of got laughed at a little bit in the early days, but I think it's worked out extremely well.
So the boat actually started off as a YD 37, so 37 foot. We don't really know what to call it now. Like, what is it now? Tell us why the boat changed.
It's a BW 40 because it's had a little bit of Botox and some stretching and things.
So is it a BBW 40?
Well,
Big Beautiful Woman.
Big Beautiful Woman.
It's got a big
BBW YD 37/40. I think we'll just stick with BB40. No, what do we call it?
BW40.
BW40.
Yeah, something like that.
Because Brett Bakewell White, who's the boat designer, he did the mod designs as well. Pete Geary, who's a legend, he did the extra bits on the front and the back and the underneath bit and all that stuff.
And Pete actually in the most recent race, fortunately, was at all the stops, which came quite in handy when we needed a few things to be repaired.
Oh yeah, he's been great.
So just for those that don't understand, so Anarchy started off as a 37-foot racing yacht,
yes.
a YD 37, and
yes.
now it's a BW 40.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So 2 feet at the back in a scoop, 1 foot at the front, and so it's quite an aggressive bow actually now.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then a little bit of other stuff that you'd probably be able to elaborate on better than I can. So
we had 4 epic years with the boat, and then it was kind of, well, what's the natural evolution of this? Do we go, because if you want to go faster, you have to go bigger, right? And particularly upwind, because what we were finding was in things like windward lewards and the likes, that sort of racing. We were finding we were just giving a little bit of upwind speed away to boats that were 2 or 3 feet longer. And we came to the conclusion that it's fun to race boat on boat. The ultimate of that's one design. And one of the dreams we had with the early Anarchy iteration was that, Cookie out at YDL would keep the molds and make a few more, and we'd have, something of a sort of hot sport boat type class, which actually the New York Yacht Club ended up doing with their IC37. So it was a good idea, but probably a bit far away from the action where the real money is. So yeah, it was kind of like, okay, well, would it be feasible to stretch the boat? What do you do to it? Yeah. So we got Brett to do some drawings. We've decided that if you want to go faster, you need more writing moments. So that means a different keel. The bulb, we changed the shape. All the thinking that's come out of the TP52 series. All of that design stuff has trickled down to where we sit on the pecking order. And because of that series being so ridiculously competitive, where people will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get 2 more seconds on an upwind leg, the tech advances are huge. So, we did a new keel with a new bulb on the end of it. We put a new mast in the boat because with extra writing moment, we needed more stiffness. We got DOYLEs to make a couple of new sails for us. We've had the evolution with Masthead Zero, which is now cableless, which is a pretty nice bit of kit, actually. I think it's still the envy of the district in many ways. And so it was really a question of getting the boat out of the water, chucking it in a shed and doing a bit of surgery. And when she came out, you never know, do you? You see the drawings and you go, that looks pretty cool. And then when she came out of the shed on the truck looking sleek and mean, like a kind of destroyer dreadnought epic, weapon of war, she looked amazing and still does. And so we're super pleased.
Yeah.
The characteristics have changed a bit. The boat's a lot quicker.
It's got no chill.
It's got no chill.
That was one of the things that we, one of the conclusions we came to at the end of that send to White Island was the boat has zero chill. You have to drive it like you stole it and just go for it. Or postage paid.
Just send it.
Yeah.
Nice little segue there. But the White Island wasn't your first race after you had all this major work done. You did the Coastal Classic, and basically
we cocked that up.
Test sail.
We put the mow down one side of the boat and pulled it up the other side.
We did
while we had another sail on the water too. I think that was the A3.
We did what has now become a legendary double trawl. And we chucked the A3 in the water with the masthead zero wrapped around it, as Will says. Got one of them under the keel.
Not great.
It was about 25 knots of breeze, I think. Yeah. We were on a lee shore towards Tirri. It was actually looking pretty ugly.
Yeah.
So it cost us about 40 minutes. I don't know how the crew got these sails back on board undamaged.
There was a knife at one point.
There was a knife.
We decided against it.
No, we don't need a knife. So yeah, we got the thing back on its feet and off we went. And I think we were minus we didn't have masthead zero heli because we'd broken that. And so we were left with kites basically. And so we chucked the A3 back up again, stacked the nose into a huge big wave, broke the kite. And then we were down to, I think,
we did bro. I think after that we chucked the bro. So the flying jib top, we call it a blast reaching zero or a bro.
Yeah.
We chucked that up on the Jennifer Elliott, I think.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah. And
it was all that was left.
Yeah, that was literally all we had left. And we just we just sent it up the coast and managed to reel in everyone except for Mr. Kite, which we were pretty stoked by after having the old double trawl keep us pretty stationary for a while.
It's character building. Everyone needs to go through that kind of experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
In an ideal world, you can probably imagine what it might be like. You don't actually have to do it, but having done it was quite satisfying to see how fast the boat could go.
Yeah.
And we finished just on dark at Russell. I think we put about 20 minutes on our mates on icebreaker, and we were a good 35 or 40 behind. So it was pretty epic actually. The boat was and that kind of gave us the, oh shit, this thing is quick.
Yeah. So online we tend to look at one of the Curve 40 icebreaker as a bit of a benchmark. So at Bay Week, I wasn't actually there, but I think it was 5-4 to them online. So it's good bunch of boys on that boat.
Yeah.
Very you guys are both quite passionate about this whole sailing thing. But AJ, for you, where did it start? I mean, how on earth did you get into sailing? Because you kind of didn't. Yeah, because you started you're a photographer from back in the day.
Yeah, that's a long time ago now. My father was an obsessive sailor, oddly enough, and he had started his sailing career in his teens back in Christchurch, way back when boats didn't have motors and they had gaff rigs. And I think
he rode a horse to school.
He didn't grow up on a sailing ship, but I kind of thought he did. And so in the mid-70s, he and my mother launched a 44-foot Laurent Giles designed a sloop built in New Zealand by a guy from the Isle of Man, built out of kauri. So it was all the framing was kauri, 3-skin kauri, but it was heavy as anything. It was 12.5 tons, and started racing all over the South Pacific. You remember in the days in the 70s and 80s in New Zealand, you'd get 150 boats on a start line for a suva race. So we did heaps of that. So my first sailing experience, apart from a couple of outings on Wellington Harbour on the boat, where I think the very first time we went out, we broached the boat and smashed a kite to pieces. And I thought that was pretty cool, actually, that you could have this big thing that could have its mast in the water and everyone's sort of yelling and screaming, wondering what to do next.
I think you've told me the story of you hanging off a winch.
Yeah, we were feet in the water, wondering, this is a pretty cool sport.
Yeah, you were probably 8 or
something like that. Yeah, 8 or 9, yeah. And so, we just did lots of, first trip was a delivery to Gisborne, got horribly seasick with my 3 brothers. Touched dolphins when they were playing around the bow, and all these really cool experiences. And then we started the ocean stuff, and the boat raced up to Port Vila in what's now Vanuatu. In those days, it was the New Hebrides. And we went from there. So my first ocean crossing was from Port Vila down to Noumea, and that was epic. And I thought, the idea of sailing out of sight of land and sailing at night and all that stuff really got to me. And once I was hooked forever. And I had no choice in the matter, to be honest.
The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, well, my father was keen to campaign the boat all over the place. So we ended up doing Transpacks, and we did a Vic Maui from Canada to Hawaii in the boat, a couple of Hobarts, heaps of races back and forth between New Zealand and the islands, lots of delivery trips. I mean, the boat actually wasn't a fast race boat at all. In fact, it was a really frustrating boat because, you know, in those days you had boats like Anticipation and the hot IOR 1-tonners and 2-tonners were coming out. So we were heavy, but we had great times. I mean, our second Hobart, we did really well because there was a huge big storm in Bass Strait, and most of the boats kind of either collapsed or fell over. And with our big heavy old thing going upwind, we just, you know, smashed it. So, I think it's one of those things. And anybody watching that knows about sailing, you know, I think once you're hooked forever. It's such an epic sport because it's so absurdly variable. And you know,
I was just going to say the boat actually, it was really cool at the end of the Wellington League. It's
the
there in
Randall
Chambers
Farm.
Marina still, and it's been really well looked after by a Wellington couple. And they've taken it to Stewart Island, all through Fiordland, and they've been to Tonga, and they're going to go back. And it was quite cool to see it's, you know, still being used and still being loved. So for sure.
And for Will, I mean, obviously, when you have a passionate parent about the sport, like, you know, my dad was crazy in love with sailing, and that's how I ended up sailing. So how about you? So how did you actually start?
It's like when you're in one of those little sects that is closed off from the world, you kind of don't have a choice.
Like the Gloria Vale of sailing.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that... and if you try and leave, you're basically ostracized almost. No, I'm kidding. But so I actually grew up doing a little bit of dinghy sailing in the estuary in Christchurch, which is the discharge point for the local wastewater treatment. So it actually put me off dinghy sailing for a bit. And then we did quite a bit, lucky enough to do a bit of cruising and did a bit of correspondence and doing schoolwork on a boat, which was pretty epic in the Med. Great lucky experience to have, actually. Me and Sam were about 12 and 13 and you know, around that age, which quite thankful for, actually. But and then started doing a bit of racing on the First by Far, which was the first kind of racy boat that we ever had.
Well, we said racy.
Racy then, I guess it felt.
For us it was.
And that was a Tauranga race. I was about 13 and there was, you know, a bunch of blokes talking like blokes, which was an experience in itself. And then from there into Django, and then moving up to Auckland for me post high school and doing the squatty, and then getting involved with this, and it's cool. It's I wrote some words for LSD at the end of one of the leagues in the around North Island, and it's really it's a cult. And
it is a cult.
You know, it's part of living life with, you know, full and unbridled enthusiasm. It's pretty frustrating not be able to go out and be on the water at the moment, but you know, it's part of it. We're all hurting, and you know, it's actually in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big sacrifice for not overloading the public health system. So, you know,
no, definitely. And we'll be back out there soon as well. So, you know,
exactly.
And actually, I think this time in lockdown makes us appreciate just how good and how lucky we have it, you know, being sailors as well. You know, we get to experience such a great part of life, and that's being out on the water. So, you know, a few weeks in isolation to do the right thing by the country, I think it's a small sacrifice. We'll be back out there soon.
Exactly.
I think that's right, Sue Ellen. And I think perhaps one of the attractive things about this sport is that it has huge highs and lows, and it's got, you know, you're dealing a lot of the time with adversity to the point where you wonder why you're doing it at all, because it's so absurdly difficult, you know, at certain times of the day or night. But of course, I think that as a sport, for its adherence, it equips you pretty well to deal with other stuff that comes along. So it's a great leveler in that sense, because, you know, if you can't deal with, you know, horrible situations at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of an ocean, you know, if you can deal with that stuff, you can deal with most of the other stuff that life throws at you. So in a philosophical way, the sport has a really nice crossover to the rest of our lives. So I just think we're incredibly lucky to be sailors.
I think it makes people more anti-fragile, and anti-fragile is the property of systems to become more I guess, able to experience volatility, the more they experience volatility. It's like little shocks to the system, you know, like an immune system in some ways. And I think with sailing, you know, the more you expose yourself to that, the more everything else you kind of able to just manage a bit better. So,
and so you guys then opted, after doing these amazing fully crewed events, you decided to take on the Round North Island race together. Now, AJ, you've done the race before, so give us a little bit of a background on what you've done before with Round North Island.
Well, when we asked Brett to draw the boat back in 2015 or late 14, you know, he said, "What do you want to do with it?" And I said, "Well, basically everything. We want to go ocean racing, we want to go windward leeward racing, we want to go two-handed racing, we want to go round the cans, we want to do everything. It's got to be perfect, you know." And of course, a wish list like that for a boat is just stupid, but that was the whole idea of it. But we, you know, like two-handed racing is so fun,
amazing,
challenging, and cool, and all that stuff.
Busy.
And so I, you know, there are boats that are really well suited to two-handed racing, and Anarchy's not one of them. You know, it's a high workload boat that needs 10 people to run efficiently. So when there's two of you on it, it's pretty tough. But look, you know, we've done heaps of two-handed racing on it.
Yeah.
And I'd done the race in 14 on Django with Andy Pilcher from DOYLE.
The delightful Andy.
The delightful
Andy Pilcher.
Start with that.
And that was just a totally cool experience. And I was like, holy, you know, wow, this is amazing. So, but I also remembered how tough it was, and sleep deprived, and all the hard things about it. And, you know, it's New Zealand, so you get shit weather, and usually when shit weather turns up, for some reason it turns up on the nose. So anyway, Will, I don't know when it was, but you said let's do this.
Years ago, I think.
You did it, Jacinda.
I think I said, let's do the two-handed, the Sands series. So Sands runs these triple series during the winter, and also they do the big enduro event. And I think you'd just done an enduro with Josh, and we were taking the boat back, and I think I mentioned I was keen to do some two-handing. And then we kind of got into that and kind of went from there, really.
Yeah, but you said the Round North Island wasn't even on my radar, because it's a hard race. And so
you know, in 2017 I watched some people finish it or something like that, and I went, that'd be quite cool to do with my old man.
So Will said, "Hey, listen, we should do the Round North Island," and I stupidly didn't actually think, and I just said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And so, you know, that's what happened. And we entered, and once you're entered, and you do all the preparation and all the stuff, and you hang out with all the other hilarious people that decide that two-handed sailing is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And you get involved in a cult within a cult, actually.
And once you enter, you can't not do it. You have to just finish it to save face, basically. Yeah. Otherwise, you just, I mean, that's why we did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was totally cool. I mean, and of course, this edition, the 2020 Round North Island, was maybe it was a once, I don't know, but there were 38 boats in the fleet.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And I mean, they actually had a waiting list as well. So, you know, for all of those who are listening or watching from around the world, you know, the Shorthanded Sailing Association of New Zealand is probably one of the most successful sailing organizations, I would have to say, in the world. Would you? You'd have to say that. Right?
Super well run, great bunch of volunteers. Big shout out to John
Henry,
John Henry,
and Sarah,
the whole
Sarah, Deb, Neil, Steve. The list goes on.
Yeah. So,
but you know, the fleets for the winter, the triple series that Sands does in New Zealand's winter, there's 150, 160 boats.
Yeah, 178.
I remember there was one of the ones last year. There was
178 boats on the start lines with 2 sailors on each boat. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's next level. But the great thing with the Round North Island race is, you know, so they actually had a waiting list. So they were, you know, they could only actually accommodate up to 40 boats just because of the logistical issues at some of the stopovers. So there were people who wanted to do the race that were denied to do the race. And then obviously when they had 2 boats that had to drop out at the last minute. By that stage, though, it was not enough prep time for 2 boats to then come and join in, because as you know, like a hell of a lot of preparation goes into doing the Round North Island. So out of those 4 legs, so we started on Saturday the 22nd of February.
Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh. At 2 p.m. Yep. It was pissing down with rain before the start, and miraculously Mother Nature went, oh, you know what, I'll be nice to this lot. And 15 minutes before the start, the rain cleared and 38 boats hit the start line of this amazing race. So the first leg, Auckland to Monganui. The first leg is a bit of a sprint, bit of a warm up to sort of get into it. How did you guys go on leg one?
We had a pretty good ride. I remembered from the 14 race that it felt more like an endurance event than a race for us. And maybe that's because Django was mid-fleet and there were, Blink was there, a Canton Keeler, there was an Elliott 36 Bushido, and some quicker boats than us. And so where we were in the fleet didn't feel, absurdly competitive. It was more like, let's get into this and be safe and try and go as fast as we can. This race was totally different. Our 35 to 40 foot fleet was absurdly and ridiculously competitive. So the start lines weren't what you might expect from two-handed racing. They were hard out, compete for every meter start lines, and the race was exactly the same the whole way around.
We had 3 out of 4 good starts. So the first one for the Monganui League, that was a cracker, which was great because we had an audience.
You did actually have a glamour start on that one. We were there filming, and bang, and Anarchy straight there, and right on your tail though was higher ground.
It was higher ground, and then we had Serena right on our butt
there somewhere.
But we had the bro on, and Serena had a fro, and so did
we had
Mr.
one
Kite.
reef as well.
So we could point a little higher and still keep the boat going. So I think we were the first boat to that little green mark at the end near North Head, and then we got passed by the 50s. There were 3 of them, and then we match raced with Mr. Kite all the way to Monganui. We were within 2 minutes of each other pretty much the whole time, which was incredible. Blink went out to sea. That probably cost them a bit because the boat's pretty quick. We came around the corner the next morning after the Cavallis and coming into Monganui after a really busy night of no sleep, trying to eke the most out of the boat we possibly could. And Mr. Kite, we could see their lights behind us, we could see Blink in front of us, and we all just match raced to the finish. And I think Blink was 3 or 4 minutes ahead. I don't know where Mr. Kite was. They were probably only 3 or 4 minutes behind us, something like that. It was crazy competitive.
And really pretty close as well there. And then getting into Monganui and enjoying that part of the world was pretty delightful actually.
Pretty good part of the world.
Actually, big shout out to Pete Gary at the end of this leg because we hadn't broken anything, and then the van broke because
we won't tell that story.
But anyway, Pete fixed it, and he was great. So a big shout out to him. Bottle of rum helped, but
Pete will never buy another rum when he's near us.
No.
Never. I don't think he'll buy a rum ever again in his entire life with how many people he helped out during.
I think that's right, actually. There's some real heroes in the background of that race.
Absolutely. So then leg 2 was from Monganui to Wellington, and that was the longest leg out of the
3.5 days for us.
And
some
boats it was like 6 days.
So
it was an interesting one. Now it started great. There's if people want to watch the
no, can you not watch that
round North Island video? There's a really good kite set.
Some hash at the start. We wrapped the kite around the fore. We really got everything horribly wrong.
The rest of the fleet had a great start.
Every 37 boats started really well.
However, you guys did have quite a nice little wrap in a certain sail that was red.
I'm pretty sure it was on film as well, so that's embarrassing. But look,
we did ask permission though to put that one in there.
Yes, you did. Yes,
I did ask Will though, not you.
Well, you got to show the rough.
Got to own your cock ups.
You do.
Absolutely, but that leg was it was pretty frustrating, not just for the sailors, but also for those that were watching. The tracker. Sailed into a massive hole.
Going up.
It's the glamour leg for us. It's the long one. You go around the top. Sailing past North Cape Reinga, and Cape Maria Van Diemen in a father and son combo on a really cool boat in competition with other really cool boats knots. In really quite gnarly conditions is a pretty outrageous experience to sort of have in your logbook. So that was awesome. We never had any real park up in that leg. I know a lot of people did.
We had a brief park up, but that was just off Cape Egmont, and we had a shoot up and we were pointing at Maui, so really not in the right direction. And then just steadily got knocked and ended up waking up the next morning. Obviously, we went to sleep all night. And we were pointing at D'Urville.
Top of D'Urville Island.
Top of D'Urville by the morning, which
going
was
fast,
which was quite nice. And then the initiation into Cook Strait. I've never
Cook Strait delivered. Cook Strait delivered an epic finish for a lot of boats.
So we had the 1.5 up, and it was kind of 12 to 14, maybe gusting 15, 16 knots. And we thought, oh, this is pretty pleasant. This is going all right. And then the moment we got service, I checked the observations, and the brothers I was gusting like 40 something or whatever. I can't even, next year the number will be 60. And
I think one boat already said 58 was what they got over the deck.
Right. Yeah. Look, it was
a bit of breeze, wasn't it?
It was a bit of breeze, yeah. So I was like, okay, let's get that down. So we did the world's worst letterbox. Completely screwed that one up.
Ripped the kite.
Yep. Chucked the A3 up, and then had to get that down at the brothers with it's got one of those little stocky things. But there's quite a bit of windage even when you're just trying to get it down and it's blowing that hard, and there's just one of you trying to pull the thing down. It's actually not big enough for the sail, but got that down somehow, and then chucked the bro up and just blasted across Cook Strait in about 15, 20 minutes from the brothers. It was quick. We're doing like 20 over the ground because we had tide with us. And
I actually like what Bex Hornell said on Kia Kaha. So that was another family crude boat, father and daughter.
Family division.
Chris,
I love what Bex said. She goes, "We got the shit kicked out of us."
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably a pretty solid way to describe what everyone experienced going through Cook Strait.
I was born in Wellington, so I'm not unfamiliar with Cook Strait, and I, like when you're coming into it, it's a beautiful sunny day near D'Urville Island. The boat's, doing nice speeds. It's got a nice kite up, and everything's all tickety-boo. And when you see the breeze at the Brothers or Karori Rock or wherever, you don't believe it, because how can it be 15 knots here and be 45 down there? It's absurd. But of course, that's what Cook Strait is. Yeah. And so you have to prepare, and you have to prepare on two-handed sailing like days in advance for that kind of stuff. When you're fully crewed, you can go, oh yeah, it's changed, no problem, let's change sails, wham, and off you go. When you're two-handed like that, you have to be half a day ahead of the boat.
Yeah.
And so we had a plan and we stuck to it, which actually worked. Okay, our execution was a bit crap because we broke a kite, and luckily Andy Pilcher was in Wellington, was able to fix it. It took him all day. Yeah. And by the time we got to the Brothers, it was blowing really hard, and so we got rid of this kite. Will did a great job. I'm not allowed in front of the mast, Sue Ellen, because I'm a bit clumsy these days, and if I go up there, I'll probably stub my toe or break my arm or fall over or do something stupid. So Will does the lion's
great excuse to get out of get out of all the work at the front of the boat.
Pretty much, yeah.
Good work,
but Will does the lion's share of the work, and so he got everything sorted, and we didn't break anything, and that was awesome. So, and then it was just a huge, awesome blast reach across the whole Cook Strait with, I think, a couple of reefs and a small headsail.
No, we had the bro up, and so then we
right,
get over to the wind factory, and it's like, shit, we've got to get rid of this thing, and that was a bit interesting.
Oh yeah, we cocked up the furl, and so that was a shambles. Managed to get it down. Yeah.
And then I'm up on the bow trying to get this thing down half underwater, which was actually kind of fun, to be honest. It was like, I love this sport.
But we're doing 18s and 20s and above, just across in pretty interesting ways, and we were match racing with Blink as well.
Yeah. So we get into Wellington Harbour, we chuck a third reef in, so we had the J4 and a reef, and we're going 3 reefs, and we're going like 8.5 upwind at 20 something true. It was
crazy,
ridiculous. And we did have an opportunity to bounce Blink, but we decided against that one just on the question of it's been 3.5 days of this and everyone's all sleep deprived, and we could mess that up quite badly. We kept reminding ourselves the whole race we're just a couple of idiots going for a sail, right?
But it was great we had the discussion, because I don't know what the breeze was. It was 40 plus and pretty gnarly in Wellington Harbour, blah blah. So you're going upwind. We're on port, they're on starboard, and we're like, oh, should we bounce them? And everyone was pretty, as you say, well, we decided to dip them. We actually dipped Blink going upwind after 600 and something miles. And so that was, it was the same. The Clockwork boys came up very close to us. I think they finished, I don't know, an hour behind or something. It was pretty epic.
Mr. Kite
was a few minutes ahead of us. Mr. Kite put 20 miles on us.
They had an absolute blinder on that. They did really well.
So yeah, and Wellington was, I mean, it's a great welcome when you go there. We were a little bit tired, I think, because we didn't even properly cross the finish line. You know, we got to where we thought the finish was, and so I put the bow up to get the.
No, I was driving.
Oh, you were driving.
Yeah, so that was the first mistake.
Yeah.
But anyway, you guys did get into Wellington. You did finish. You did finish properly. You did get into Wellington. I was on the dock when you guys were in Wellington, and Will, you, I think, yeah, sleep deprived. You just sculled a beer, and you said something that I think is
sailing.
Something along those lines.
Oh, I used a meaningless intensifier.
Yes, you
did.
One
that starts with F.
The F you said snorting children.
But what was it? You know, like you just did 2 legs of R&I, and you get off the boat. You were absolutely pumped.
Yeah.
And at that point, you had fallen in love with sailing even more.
Oh, I mean, so it's kind of hard to articulate, quite frankly. I think it's one of those things that you kind of have to do it to experience it and understand it, particularly when you're doing it with your old man. So the Kia Kaha crew will very much understand that, I think, and also Relapse.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you get a greater appreciation for this country, and you know, when the first people showed up here, I mean, it's very well to cover these distances in a car or a plane, but you know, you try and sail around the thing at actually relatively decent speed, and it takes a while, and you know, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature, and there's a kind of humbling aspect to that, I think. And you know, and then 58 miles out or so from Cape Egmont, you see Mount Taranaki pop up on the horizon, and that, I mean,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's just a lot of things that, yeah. And then there's the dolphins, or going past the, you know, the capes at the top, and you know, the old swig of the. So we had a bottle of Diplomatico every cape we went past. We had a little sip from the bottle. So, yeah.
No, well, you were definitely in love with the sport when I saw you, and the both of you were absolutely fizzing about making it halfway around the North Island of New Zealand. It was really great to see. And then we had the start of leg 3, which was Wellington to Napier. And I'm not sure if you saw the other day, Will, we had a bit of a chat with none other than Stu Bannatyne and Chris Nicholson. And Chris Nicholson was forced to admit something about his seasickness, that he does suffer from seasickness. And there's a little bit of a video that Motorboat captured, Damon from Motorboat. And apparently you had
so it wasn't actually seasickness, and I wasn't even hungover either, which was really disappointing. I'd had a very quiet night the night before. Can't speak for the previous nights before that, but we reckon we went to a dodgy dumplings place because AJ was feeling pretty crook the day. No, really, he was feeling pretty crook, and then I was trimming the chute and had a right old good chuck over the side.
Twice.
Yeah, oh no, let me think. I think that was all that was just on camera. So yeah, it was a bit more than that. And
it didn't stop you though. Nah. It was good.
Oh, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, go and sit in the corner and you know,
right,
suck your thumb or something? Like,
so have either of you ever felt any kind of seasickness? Now be honest.
Not in a long time. I think I was last seasick when I was like 12 or 13.
You're so hardcore, Will.
I used to get seasick when I was a kid, and after having done, I don't know, quite a lot of miles actually on my dad's boat, I remember being downstairs, and the boat had a engine room, you know, that's how civilized it was, and we had to bleed the diesel because it wasn't working properly. And I was with a guy called Pete Farrell, who was one of the toughest blokes I ever met. He was a mountaineer. He climbed K2 and Annapurna and all this kind of stuff. This guy was hard out. He was from Manchester. And Pete and I were in the engine room in the tropics in a big storm, and the boat was bucking and weaving, and there's diesel everywhere, which of course is just the most horrible smell. And Pete threw up all over the engine and me. And I think I was about 12 or 13, and I didn't even feel sick. I'm like, okay, well, I think I've cracked this business, and I haven't felt queasy ever since. It was kind of, I think that was the moment. So, a bit of luck with that, but no, Will didn't stop. And we started well out of Wellington. We actually were nicely on the line, going at pace and everything else. We got a little bit in the gas of Kia Kaha when they passed us. that slowed us down a bit. Got the bro on, that was good. Got the kite on.
We
wrapped the kite, didn't we?
No, we trawled the 1.5 briefly.
We did. We had another
which
trawl.
is not fun when you're trying to pull it in by yourself and you feel that little tug. You know, it's that everyone knows what I'm talking about. And somehow I managed to get that back in. I think yelling profanities at the top of my lungs gave me more strength. It's like Popeye eating spinach. Yeah. Actually, fun. Just slight sidetrack. Popeye. If you think the spinach is booze, it takes on a whole different meaning, because then it's about a guy who gets drunk and goes and beats up people who are trying to talk to his wife, which is anyway. Let's go back to sailing.
Oh my God.
Popeye's a sailor.
Well, yeah, actually, it's and she's trying to get away from him, and it's anyway.
We digress. Anyway, so the leg to Napier, you guys actually had quite an amazing experience with a pod of dolphins just following you guys the entire way.
Yeah. Well,
does that make it magical? Does that make it something special about the whole experience?
Well, it was quite nice because we got to Palliser and we had sloppy seas and not much breeze, and so we're just going bang, bang, bang there for a while
with everybody else.
Yeah. And then that night was just one long beat upwind, just on
bash
port.
Yeah.
And so then a little bit, you couldn't really sleep until you were so knackered that you could, because it was just very uncomfortable. Very, very thankful that we had the beanbags for that one.
Modern flat carbon boats like Anarchy, as everybody who's ever been in one knows, are not pleasant places downstairs. You're inside a drum being smashed around. There's no sense of orientation. It's pretty hideous.
You don't really even have it downstairs.
Yeah, it's pretty. Well, there's no headroom. There's nothing. It's just it's horrible. So anyway, so bashed away all night. Next morning, sort of, I think we tacked at some stage where we thought that was technically or strategically the right thing to do.
Yeah,
probably was.
Kind of in that evening, it was quite lovely. The sun started to come down, and then I just had a quick nap and I came back upstairs, and then AJ's got his phone out recording. So I kind of look around and there's 50 dolphins around the boat. And I think there was probably even more than that. It was something pretty special.
Anybody that's done sailing around the place will know about how cool it is when you get a pod of dolphins coming to play with you. But this was biblical. 50 odd of these creatures just doing their thing, and it was so cool. I mean, they know what's going on. They're communicating in some way. I don't know what it is. And they're having a ball. They're actually out there having fun. They're not just looking for food or whatever. They're actually enjoying life. It's pretty awesome. So I mean, it's one of those good nature experiences. That was really special. Yeah.
So then you got into Napier, leg 3 done. Another good one. You were happy with that? You were happy with how you did?
Clockwork and Mr. Kite.
Yes, we did.
A good time. We're pretty happy with how that went.
But it was another metro.
So it was another. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we came around the corner at Kidnappers, and on the AIS, Kite weren't moving very fast because they were a little bit more inside. And so we were going at about 70 true for a while, and AJ's going, but the mark's that way. It's like, no, we need to take this wide, because for whatever, it was dark, couldn't really see anything. And that was kind of the only bit of data we had was, they're not going very fast in there, so there must be no wind in there. And so we kind of just would have sucked from their perspective, because, it's your worst nightmare to have a dream run and then stop and have people pass you around the outside. But yeah, managed to have a pretty good finish on that one.
So Ellen, you know what it's like when you know that it's a dead maggot to the finish, but you have to. So when you're driving, you obviously you want to eke out the best BMG you can, and so to be told that the tactics are not to do that and to go in another direction, it's kind of anathema. It's hard to do, right? And so
you just you try to process it. You're like,
but
it
was the right call. Will made the right call, and we snuck out to sort of in the wrong direction for a bit, kept the breeze, and managed to pass Soddy and Craig on Mr. Kite. I think we beat them by 3 minutes again or some stupid short margin after another long race, and they were great. So we all get to the dock, and boys came over and we had a few rums, and they were extremely gracious. I mean, of course, when that happens to you, when you're ahead of a major competitor, and then they sneak past because you sailed into a hole at night.
Sailing.
It's just so frustratingly horrible. But the boys were very, very cool. We had a great time. And once again, I think that's one of those, particularly with the two-handed racing, is all of that camaraderie that exists. I mean, the competition's fierce, and you absolutely want to nail it, and you want to beat everybody, and you want to do all those things that you do because sailing's a competitive sport, or yacht racing is. But when it's all over, you're all these. You share this experience that unless you've done it, you don't really understand it. So there's a super, super strong camaraderie between the competitors, which I think is just one of the fabulous aspects of all of this. And then, of course, you've got all the people that are involved in the background making the thing go. And without all of that great support from, race committees and organisers and volunteers and helpers, every port you get to, people come and jump on your boat and help you get the main down, because that's a pain in the ass, as we know, two-handed, and all the cool stuff that happens.
And at the end of this one, we're pretty sleep deprived. So we cross the finish line, we get the jib down. It's we're going to get the main down. We're sailing along. I remember looking over to the right and going, AJ, is that boat, is that ship moving? And initially we kind of thought no, and then like, oh shit, it is. And so okay, we're gonna get out of the way of that now.
Very disorientating, that stuff.
Yeah,
because it's essentially what you're doing is you're trying to be safe and you're trying to be fast, but you're actually operating at, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a very low percentage of your normal brain power, because you just have no sleep. You eat as well as you can, but you're not really, especially on a boat like Anarchy. We don't eat cooked food or anything. It's just
somewhere in the late 60s capacity, probably. Yeah. Nice.
Nice. So then the last leg, Napier, all the way back to Auckland. Describe that moment when you finally crossed to that finish line in front of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. You both had your shirts off. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was gorgeous. Knowing that you finished it as a father and son combination, how was that for you both?
Look, Sue Ellen, it's immense. Just doing the race for everybody is immense. But when you do it with your son,
we grew up together. So it's pretty awesome to be able to do this stuff.
It's
well, Will, you grew up.
You had Moose on the other day, which amuses us actually, because you first of all you got Moose. I think he's won Volvo. The guy's done just about everything. He's won Volvos and done billions of miles and won all this and won all that. And then you get Stu and Nico, and between them, I think, well, Stu's won it 4 times or something ridiculous. And done more laps than anybody, and then you end up with us, and I'm not quite sure what we're doing here, but anyway, it's a good story. But the point I'm making is that Moose called me before the race started, and he said, oh man, I'm really jealous of you. I mean, hang on a minute, this is Mike Sanderson here, epic professional sailor, CEO at DOYLE's, done all that stuff. What do you mean? How can you be jealous of us, amateur sailors? And he said, because you're doing this with your son. And he said, that's a dream. That would be absolutely incredible if I could ever do that myself. So I mean, I can't quite articulate what it really means, because it's a father-son combo, doing something like that. And not only that, but coming to the end of it, better mates rather than scrapping and yelling and being angry at each other. So it's pretty cool.
But there was also another member on your team as well who actually held the whole thing together. And is she there?
Yeah, we've got to go and get her. So Arka, my wife, Arka's Will's mum, we've been together for I think 27 years now, and it's amazing, cool stuff we've all done together as a family. But Arka ran the show from onshore, and we didn't have to think about anything other than yacht racing. Everything was sorted. Like leg 2, I went downstairs. We were bashing around, I don't know, at night time, and I could smell diesel, which it's the pet hate of every yachty, right? You get diesel in the bilge, it kind of doesn't go away. And Anarchy doesn't have a bilge, so it floats around all over the place. I'm like, where's that coming from? And it turned out the tank had sprung a leak, the diesel tank, and it's in the nav area, which is the only dry, nice area of the boat. And when I say nice, it's not really that nice, because you bump your head all the time. There's no headroom, you've got to sit. It's hideous actually, but compared to the rest of the boat, it's kind of like a stateroom. So it's got diesel in it, and that's depressing. So I sent Arka an email and said, oh, look, we've split the diesel tank. Can you find another one? And how do you do that in 2 days?
She did.
Anyway, I'll let you.
She managed to do it.
So you go and sit there, gorgeous, and yeah. Here we go. This virtual stuff's weird.
It's so weird. So Arka, you were the shore manager, shore crew, shore supervisor, mother, wife, everything for Team Anarchy as they did around North Island. How was the experience for you, for being someone who's watching on shore, watching the tracker the whole way, and knowing that you had to just jump to any demand that was sort of put your way, especially when they needed a new diesel tank? How was it for you for the race?
Well, Andrew and I actually, just going to give you a bit of background. We met 28 years ago, during 28 years ago during the war in Bosnia, and I was working for Andrew as a fixer. So, you know, in war zones, when you need petrol or permits or whatever, you have to have a local person who will get these things for you. So having, you know, worked as a fixer, I was kind of really pleased to be doing logistics.
You're in your element, really.
For William and Andrew. And I just wanted to make sure that they just had to focus on sailing and nothing else. So when Andrew texted me or emailed me on a sat phone saying, you know, we've got a leak, I just said to him, okay, leave it to me, I'll sort it out. Yeah. And
most people said 10 days.
Yes, they said 10 days because you have to get it from Australia and find someone in Wellington who's going to actually fit it in and all that. Well, I put the question on our group chat on WhatsApp, and everyone.
That's the sense, sure, yeah.
Yes, and everyone was so amazing and so helpful. And within, you know, a few hours, I got a call from Craig Smallwood at he is at Sea Legs, and he said, I found it, it'll be in Wellington tomorrow, you know. Yeah. So it was amazing, yeah.
Done a bit of sailing with Craig, and it's kind of cool because, you know, you get a lot of these stories of when things break or whatever, and on any of the boats in the fleet, or, you know, the Round New Zealand race, etc. People just kind of all pull together and just make it happen.
Yeah.
Which it's nice to know.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. Cool bunch of people, the crew, you know, everyone on the shore supporting their mates was so helpful, and gave us so many contact details, who to find in Wellington or who to chase in Auckland, potentially have this tank. And so no, everyone was just super, super helpful.
Yeah. And then, you know, I was just going to say, there's a lot of, you know, Craig obviously, and then Pete Gary fixed a few things. He fixed the bracket for the autopilot when that broke at the end of League 2, and Mr. Andrew Clark was pretty on point for a lot of boats, and Tiny was there as well. And you know, there's a lot of people who kind of, you know, I guess followed around and fixed stuff. AP, the delightful Mr. Andy Pilcher, obviously. Yeah, it's good to know.
Artka, how relieved were you when the race was finally over and your husband and your son crossed that finish line and they were home safely?
Well, during the race, I was never worried. I was only concerned that they had enough food, that they were, you know, focusing, getting enough sleep, managing their sleep. And I thought I wasn't worried. And then when they finally crossed the finish line, that's actually when I burst into tears and realized that actually I was worried. I just didn't want to think about it, I guess. And I was so proud to see them cross that finish line, and so proud of both of them during the entire race. And actually all those people who were doing this race were amazing. I really take my hat off to every single person who did this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I. I'm in awe of everybody. And, you know, being able to create the video for the end of the race that is available on both the Sands, our website, that whole documentary that we created, you know, you look back and you look at all the different personalities and everything that they went through. But no matter what, at the end of it, everybody was just so happy, especially the race winners, Steve Mayer and Jamie Logan on Clockwork.
They sailed really well. Didn't make many mistakes. Yeah. Made a really good call on where to go through after Colville. They went quite kind of inside the Noisies, and we went around the outside, and we thought we were going to get knocked, and ended up helping us at the line, actually. So
it was very
good stuff.
It was good.
So AJ, well, Carl, what is next for Anarchy once we get out of this lockdown? Where are you, AJ? You can squeeze back in.
Come back?
You can squeeze back in. No, you can squeeze in.
Well, I'll sneak back in through the picture. Look at that.
We made noises about doing the Groupama race
Yeah.
and doing a fun delivery up to Noumea with Steve and co, and kind of leaving at the same time and picking a window and all that, and then going and doing that race, because I've only ever heard epic things about it, and particularly post White Island, the crew were all pretty keen to do more of that kind of racing, longer distances and all of that. And
that one's been cancelled.
Yeah, so it was about
postponed until next year.
Yeah, so pre-level 2, we kind of could see the writing on the wall a bit, and had the conversation with everyone of, look, don't really think this is going to be a thing, and as it subsequently turned out, that is the case, which is a bit of a shame. But just the normal racing and sand series and coastal and Bailey Gold Cup. Yeah,
maybe a Three Kings in there as well.
Is that what we're doing?
Maybe we're in discussion at the moment with my different hat on at Royal Akarana Yacht Club. We're just sort of putting our plan together now for what races we're going to be doing at the end of the year. So there might be a sneaky long one chucked in there over winter.
One of the cool things about living where we do is that if you want to go racing probably 2 or 3 times a week, at least you can. We've got our combination of, not distance racing, but 30 to 50 mile local races around the Anarchy Gulf, which are really competitive and really fun. We've got the extra stuff. I mean, the coastal's legendary. We all love that. And of course, the Akarana puts on ocean racing when every year or two. And then we've got the other stuff like White Island and Three Kings. And I think we raced in Gisborne a while back. And
there's the Akarana 350, which was pretty fun
and all that stuff. So there's no, there's a hell of a lot of sailing to be done. But the pressure was on from the Anarchy crew that, we've got to do a Groupama. And so that was kind of in the thinking. Got in touch with Steve, or a week or two ago, Steve Mayer, who has Clockwork, Steve and Jamie. And again, I would like to just do a quick aside and a big shout out to those boys. I think they put together the consummate campaign for that Round North Island race. They really did. Yeah. They won it. They won it convincingly, and they just sailed their boat as well as you could probably sail a boat in those conditions. So big hats off to those boys. Anyway, I kind of said to Steve, hey, look, I don't think Groupama is going to happen, but I know you're keen or you're entered. So let's think about it in 21, and maybe we hit some kind of start line together with our 2 backwell white boats and see who can get to Noumea first as part of the delivery. So who knows where that might evolve, because that's how ocean races start, isn't it?
Absolutely. So look, just looking back at that great picture that you've got behind you there, just tell us from your sail wardrobe, which is the most exciting sail to put up and why?
We're kind of in love with our cableless masthead Zero. It's I think it's one of DOYLE's really cool innovation and one of their really good markers of progress in sail making. I mean, the materials technology's come a really, really long way, to the point where you can have a couple of tons pulling down on the luff of a sail which doesn't have a cable holding it up. I mean, who would have thought you could do that even 5 years ago? So that's a really, really cool sail. It's actually a bit of a weapon. You can use it in such a variety of conditions, and it's kind of the beast. But I mean, we've got an offshore main and an inshore main. They're beautiful works of art, because you look at the shape that you can get with those. It's the perfect wing if you get it right. I'm actually looking at that photo, and I think we're slightly over trimmed here. See these?
Oh, God.
See, it's a bit annoying actually. We might have to ease the main or too much vang perhaps. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, look, the gear we've got on the boat, we're pretty lucky to have all this stuff, and it's all made in New Zealand.
I quite like the Bro. Just want a bit of a shout out to that, because the Bro you generally put up when you got 2 or 3 sails up the front and then 1 or 2 reefs in the main. But it's really quite delightful to drive with that combo, and it's almost, I don't want to say easy, but it's just comfortable, but you're still going really fast, and you'll be that kind of sitting on in the White Island race. We had that combo up and Gator was driving, and she touched 24 something knots, and we were kind of sitting on 19s and 20s, which is pretty quick. So.
And Alison Kent does actually hold the speed record for Anarchy, doesn't she?
Yes,
She does.
yeah. There's actually a little belt, like a heavyweight wrestling belt that she has.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's one of the reasons why I think the boat's really fun on these sorts of distance races, Sue Ellen, because everybody can do everything on the boat. I mean, everyone's got their specialized task. Will's in the pit, and Celia's at the back. She's on tactics, but she can do the bow because that's actually her background. And Gator is actually our main sheet trimmer. But all of these sailors, I shouldn't say this, but all the kids, compared to my age, they are can drive the boat really well as well. So when you've got a whole bunch of really good drivers on the boat for distance racing, you don't have to do endurance, because as soon as you get a little bit at 90% of your normal concentration level, somebody else takes over and goes even faster. And yeah, Gator's got the record, but everybody else wants it. So we're looking forward to the next big send.
Fantastic. Now, Will, you're wearing quite a cool shirt there. Can you just show us it again?
Postage paid, just send it, live, sail, die. Yeah.
Do you reckon we should get those back in the shop?
Oh, we should run a poll, but yeah, it's probably not a bad shout.
You also help us out with some of our merchandising, and I believe you've got a couple of new designs on the way. Is that right?
Yeah,
or are you lagging a little bit?
There's a couple of ideas, yeah, a bit of a lag. Trying to finish off a master's at the moment, but that's can't really do any field work, which is frustrating.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey guys, I just want to say a massive thanks for coming along this morning and for sharing your stories, especially the Round North Island story, which is obviously the most recent event that we've all been involved in. And congratulations on a great boat. And thank you so much for supporting Kiwi designers, Kiwi builders, Kiwi sailors, Kiwi sail makers, and just, flying the New Zealand flag very, very proudly. It's great to see.
Well, thank you for having us, Sue Ellen. It's been really cool, reliving these experiences, which, although it wasn't that long ago, given the circumstances that we here in New Zealand and indeed in the world are facing, it does feel like another lifetime, actually. So it's great to have a think about that stuff. And look, you're right about the whole Kiwi thing. This country's such an epic place to be from and live in.
Best country in the world.
Yeah, and so we
need to run a tourist campaign where we tell people it's really bad, so they stop coming.
Oh, hang on, they can't get in now anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so and with the Anarchy program, it's been a real privilege to actually support all this local stuff, because the reality is I can't think of a country or a city really anywhere where you can get all of this stuff done really well to the best possible quality internationally, and it's right here in our backyard. So maybe there's a message in there somewhere for all of us that post COVID-19 and post pandemic and everything else, we think a little bit more locally and support New Zealand stuff more, and keep our economy as self-sufficient as it can possibly be. I know that's pretty silly in the age of globalization, and we wouldn't want to make iPhones here because they'd be about 10 grand each. But the reality is New Zealand is a fantastic place to be, and we're bloody lucky to be Kiwis. I'm
very, very privileged to be able to live here as well. I know that some of you still don't consider me to be part of the furniture yet, being from Australia, but I love it here.
Oh, come on, Phil.
I'm staying.
You signed on for the whole trip. You're about as patriotic a Kiwi as one could hope to meet. So,
there's Mark Orams. He said it about Glen Ashby. He calls him a quasi, a Kiwi Aussie. he said it to me a couple of years back as well, and I'm like, well, hey, same sentence as Glen Ashby. I'm happy to take that one on. No worries at all.
Speaking of fizzes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey guys, look, thank you so much. For those that don't really know about the race that we were talking about, it's the SANS, Shorthanded Sailing Association of New Zealand Round North Island race. You can watch the documentary on our YouTube channel, on the SANS website, on Live Sail Die's website, and on our Facebook page and the SANS Facebook page. And
sign up for the SANS series this winter, which is still running ahead.
Yep, so SANS at this stage are definitely trucking on with their triple series, and they'll reschedule their enduro race. I did the enduro last year and I loved it, and I'd be very keen to do it again as well. But guys, look, thank you so much. And yeah, you did have some big shoes to fill. And coming up next in our DOYLE series of chats, we've got Optimus expert and One Design expert, Andrew Brown.
Oh, Brownie. Oh, you'll have a great time with him. He's a good bugger. Yeah.
So
Excellent.
Brownie's going to talk about Opti stuff and how he's keeping his kids busy during lockdown. He's got some pretty cool ideas and talk about the new generation of Opti sales and One Design sales and keeping kids on the water.
Brilliant. Really
fantastic.
Cool. Hey, thanks for having us. It's been a blast.
No worries at all. So what's the plan for the rest of the day in lockdown?
A couple of Zoom meetings, the sort of come up with some interesting theory on quantum physics so we can bamboozle each other tonight around the dinner table.
Talk about black holes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing, if the moment you think you understand quantum physics, you don't. You've got it wrong. No one understands it.
Actually, that's right, AJ. You and I have got a Zoom meeting this afternoon, so
we do.
Get prepared for that.
Do I have to wear a suit, or can I just come as I am?
Just make sure you're wearing pants. It's fine.
Okay.
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah. Hey, listen, look after yourself, hey?
Yep, no worries. You guys too, and then stay in that bubble. Everyone stay in that bubble until we're told otherwise. So we'll see.
And thanks to everyone for listening to us.
No worries. We'll see you on the other side.
Sounds great. Okay.
See you
Bye.
See you guys.